stormed the village and torched 2 houses, the students accusing some villagers of engaging in witchcraft. Police moved in and arrested 15 students. This is yet another incident that adds to the grim statistics of students' unrest. In just 2 days, about 10 schools have been closed. The ministry, however, insisting that only 10 institutions have been shut down since the wave of unrest started, 7 of the cases involving arson. The unrest arousing the ministry to action. Education Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohammed unveiling strict measures to stop the mayhem.
That their living certificates include language that indicates that they were found guilty of criminal offenses. We will not allow them into our universities going forward. We will also not be able to recommend them for scholarships. In terms of jobs, as you know, there's a requirement for a certificate of good conduct. That, of course, will not be forthcoming. With critics having it that the recent measures spearheaded by the Directorate of Criminal Investigation are too punitive to the minors, the ministry is hearing none of that. Let's not make excuses for crimes that are committed. Those are crimes and they will be dealt with as such. And we don't make excuses for an adult burning property. We shouldn't make it for anybody. With more than 125 students arrested in an ongoing crackdown against students suspected to have burnt dormitories, on Monday, police in Seme, Kisumu County arrested a student of Ngere Secondary School with 2 liters of petrol. The move forestalling an arson attack. The 3 students of Siakago Boys in Embu have been jailed for 1 year on probation and have since cleared from the school. They can only attend day schools as they report to their local chief. Preliminary investigations into the recent spate of fires revealed that the unrest was caused by students' reaction to last year's cancellation of KCSE examination results in several schools, tough rules meant to stamp out cheating, and general cases of indiscipline. All boarding schools have been asked to double the number of teachers on duty over the next 2 weeks, with greater emphasis on surveillance of boarding facilities when students are attending their evening studies. Quality assurance officers have been asked to file daily reports on security situation of their regions, with education officials intensifying field visits.
For 1 week.
Amina says the government will not shoulder the cost of repairs, effectively meaning that parents will have to pay for the damage caused by their children. But government is not going to spend a cent in repairing any property that has been destroyed by students. The Cabinet Secretary is expected to tour Nyanza region Tuesday on a fact-finding mission in the affected schools. With cases of arson seemingly on the rise within secondary schools in the country, it now remains to be seen whether the tough raft of recommendations put in place will help mend the broken fabric of the society. Hassan Mugambi, Citizen TV.
Right, and that is the topic we want to get to at this moment. Let me introduce now my guest in studio, Jonathan Wesaya, who is an education expert. Jonathan, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Higgins.
Thank you for finding time to be here with us today. We're talking about roughly 10 schools in the last 24 hours or so. Let me get your initial thoughts on this.
It should not surprise us.
Okay.
And I want to take you back to 1974.
Wow.
That in 1974, nearly 100 schools went down, and the then first president of Kenya banned strikes of any form across the nation. And out of that, Professor Kabiru Kinyanjui, who's the current VC for Chuka University, did a seminal study. And the study was very interesting. It was completed in 1976. And the study is actually titled...
So it was, in a sense, a 2-year study.
Yeah. The study is titled The Art of Blaming the Victim. That when these things happen, we take away the adults who are responsible for taking care of the children, but then blame the children who are the victims. So we are into that space again, and this happened last year. What I want us to engage in is, you know, a little bit more deliberate thought instead of finding scapegoats. Because in 1974, we did not have the measures we are having for examination. So it cannot be examination.
Okay.
We are running away from what the problem is.
So if the same incidents of unrest have been happening,
yes,
and the measures in a sense are changing, There must be another reason why.
There is another reason. Yes, in my view,
there is another reason.
There is another reason.
What is the reason?
The reason is that our learning institutions are overstretched. The conditions in some of these schools are not very appealing. Some schools are not habitable. Schools have turned every little space into a dormitory. They have turned stores, laboratories into dormitories. And if you look at the profile of all the schools that are affected, you will find their newly promoted schools into national status. They are extra county schools. These are schools that the ministry has pushed to take on an extra load. Now, they are taking in more children, but the ministry...
And this is
yes.
Data you've looked at.
Yes. Yes. The ministry is pushing schools to admit more learners, but the Teacher Service Commission is not employing a commensurate number of teachers to manage these children. That is why, if you look at the raft of measures that Ambassador Mina Mohammed is talking about, is about doubling the number of teachers on duty. It means the contact between the learners and the teachers is stretched. So they're looking at doubling that number. But if you double, Wahiga, it is... Let me use a scenario. I'm a teacher of English myself. If you're a teacher of English, it means you have the first lesson every day, most likely, and you will have the last lesson. If you have any other extra duty, let me try and paint a picture for you. If you have averagely, you know, a stream of 60 learners from Form 1 to Form 4, and you have 5 lessons in a day, you are coming into contact with 300 learners. In English, it means if you teach grammar, or you teach composition or literature, it means you are going away with books to mark. So 300 books to mark in a day. You have to prepare for your lesson for the following day. You are on duty. You are a games master. You are guiding and counseling teacher. It cannot work. So we just need to go back to the basics and fix the system. But if we continue doing it the way we are doing it,
this thing is not going
this is not going to get fixed within our lifetime.
So look at this. I mean, so the government's pledge is to have every school age, you know, sort of young person in school, right?
Yes.
And they're not going back on that. But at the same time, constraints of budget, you know, the state of our economy at the moment, and upgrading facilities also takes time. So the government makes a declaration today, but it will take time to... So are there any ways in which you can sort of navigate around all these challenges? Because...
Yeah, it's a function of planning. What we needed to do, that the children who are banning schools today, the children who failed KCSE last year, are products of the free primary education that was declared by President Kibaki in 2003. So we have failed to plan for them for 15 years. So we cannot blame them.
No, but in 1970s, the riots were happening. How can you then link?
No, yes, there is a direct line connecting it, because if you look at the carrying capacity of the school you went to, the secondary school you went to, it may be 10, 15 years since you left secondary school. That school has now double intake. If you look at the infrastructure, it is the same old one or just one new dormitory. The number of teacher establishment in the school may have changed by between 5 to 10, which is not commensurate to the number of teachers. But these children are also learning from us. When we have a little problem, we pluck twigs and we run on the road, we strike, we burn stuff. So why are we discriminating them today to say if you strike, you don't get a certificate of good conduct, you will not be recommended for scholarship, you will only attend a day school, when our leaders who lead demos and strikes get cleared to go in parliament, to go into Senate, to go into the Council of Governors? Why are we treating these children as if they are aliens into this land? So
these students have no responsibility whatsoever in your view?
They have
and the ID that we then have on the screen, their students behaving badly, according to you, is incorrect.
It is incorrect because they are learning from us. Where are they getting this bad behavior from? They are learning from the adults. What we need to be teaching our children at this point in time is that every right has a corresponding responsibility. But children learn by looking at the adults, copying what the adults are doing, mimicking what the adults do. So our children have learned from us. What we need to be doing now is to learn to listen to some of these children. Some of the measures that we have put in place to secure our children are outdated. In 2008, the Ministry of Education launched a safety manual for safety and security in schools. Now, that manual was largely on fires. It did not anticipate any other security risk in the school. We have not reviewed that. What we have seen is that if you look at the period within which Dr. Matiang'i was the Minister of Education, if you look at the number of decrees he issued, and Amina is following the same thing, who is auditing? When is the minister going to implement all these things?
All these decrees.
About? The decrees are just too many.
Every day a different decree.
Yes. So, and I can tell you for free that Amina is going to go into Kisumu County, Wesaya County.
She's supposed to go to Kisumu Girls today, yes?
Today. When she is there, she is going to issue new measures on the ground. And just to add on to what she issued yesterday.
With no idea of any follow-up, who's going to follow up, and timelines.
Yes, and what is surprising me is that when she will be issuing this decrees, she will be flanked by very senior Ministry of Education officials who are employed to work in Kisumu County, in Wesaya County. And she never gets to ask them, what were you doing when all this was happening? So it's a function of accountability. As we want to hold our children to account, let us also hold the duty bearers.
So, I mean, for example, what would you then propose that she does differently? And it's unfortunate that we live in a society that praises, people there will then say, Tuongeleshe, as a leader, tell us something, give us a decree, make a declaration of some sort. And it's a society that unfortunately praises that. What should be done differently? Would you recommend, for example, that she cancels that visit and then sits in Nairobi and works on legislation? I mean, what would you tell her to do then?
No, for her, it's a good thing for her to go to the ground
and see what's happening,
and see what is happening, so that when she is issuing the decrees are informed, are context specific. But the people who work behind the curtains, the people who are her advisors, need to be able to take these decrees to the next level, because there is a disconnect in Kenya between policy and practice, so that the cabinet secretary will issue policies. And the other day also, the principal secretary was issuing other directives, but nobody is developing an engagement framework, because the hallmark of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 is that there needs to be participation. When all these things are happening, where is the parent in all this matter? Where are the teacher unions? Where is the parent association? What is the voice of the children? Has anybody listened to them for them to say that this was the pressing matter that we wanted addressed, and because it was not addressed, we had to vent it out this way?
Fair enough. Just hang on a little bit, and I want to get your thoughts on some of the measures that have been taken. For example, we know about 125 students have been arrested.